Did you ever listen to the album?
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. Of course I did.
Oh,
Jesus, that's
cool.
so good, man. Like, yeah,
Oh, thanks, dude.
yeah, I really like it,
Different,
man. Like,
really, really different, really different.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
cool. Yeah, no,
from
definitely.
heaps of my other stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Thanks, man. You're
no,
the
it's
first dude to hear it.
cool. No, I thought it was fucking awesome, man.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
I like all the layering of everything. Like, it's all big, you know. It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
fucking cool, you
Oh,
know.
thanks, man. Thanks, dude. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And like, is it like a lower guitar tuning? Is that what is what's
Yeah, this one's C. So, what was that? SS Tibet was in C sharp because I kind of wanted to put some of those like genty style riffs in this one. I was like, fuck, what's a okay tuning that my guitar can kind of handle, but also do like thrashy sounds? Because if you do thrashy too low, it sounds fucked.
yeah, yeah.
It just sounds like a mess. So I'm like, what's so I just settled on C, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. Like that's yeah, like that works. I can kind of do a bit of like modern style metal and but also keep like the blast and thrashy stuff so it doesn't sound like muddy or whatever. So yeah, I just settled on C standard tuning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to go like I want to do these different styles in here now? Like it's cool. I think it works fucking really well. But like I want like what made you kind of first go? I want to do that. You know?
Uh um I kind of I really wanted to make an album where because I've been listening to all this different stuff over the years and I was like, oh, I just want to make an album where I all the cool stuff that I've heard, I want to kind of all put it into one sort of album, you know, and you know, if the song calls for it, then I'll chuck it in. So
Mm.
that's kind of sort of where I was thinking with that. And I wasn't thinking, you know, oh, it's got to be like black metal. I've got to do black metal riffs here, or I've got to do, you know, some death metal stuff here, or whatever. Or, you know, oh, you can't put like a progressive style riff in here. I was like, nah, that's what I want to write for this thing, and I just kind of blocked everything out, and I just made a sort of a record that I'd want to make, you know, or and sort of not think about so much about oh you know these other people will think this is lame or you know he shouldn't do like down tuned riffs here, what's he doing here, you know what, you know, I liked his older stuff better or whatever, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just like no, I want to write an album how I want to write it and all the different influences that I've had over the years and just chuck that in, and that's what I did with this album.
Yeah, no, it's killing me. I kind of like too, like you're saying there's newer sounding stuff too, but I think the way it's kind of in there, it doesn't, it still kind of sounds kind of old school as well. You know what I mean? Does that
Yeah,
make sense? Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Thanks,
yeah,
man. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it, I didn't go in like, oh, I'm gonna do like a progressive style gent riff here because I want to be edgy or whatever.
yeah, sure,
It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of had to fit with everything, and
Mm,
you know, it's just yeah, I just chucked all my influences in and stuff that I've liked listening to over the years, and just chucked it all in on an album, you know, and whatever genre that becomes now, whether you'd call it a black metal album or a black thrash album or a it's to me this one's just a metal album, you know.
mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Um, if it's cool, I wouldn't mind going track by track with you, if that's
Oh,
all right.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, sick. So Solar Warden, the title track's the first one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's cool. I like all the stops and like the synth and flangey parts going on and stuff. It's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Thanks.
And I listen on headphones. I recommend that listening on headphones. That mix is sick, man. Like you know,
Thanks.
yeah. So tell us about that one. Like, how'd that kind of come together?
Um, well, so what I do over the years, this probably destroys the majesty of it a little bit, but like if I hear something that I'm interested in, I'm like, wow, that's a cool like conspiracy, or that's a cool story from this. Like I'll put it on a list, you know, and I've got a list of things. And like Solar Warden was something that I wanted to write about. And you know, when I'm making this list, I just hear these things and I'll just chuck it in. And then I have to kind of research it a little bit and go, can I actually make a song about this, or is it just this cool buzzword and then there's nothing you can do? So um, with Solar Water, and I read into it, and then I was like, oh, I can actually make a whole song about this sort of stuff, and um, yeah, and then it just became the sort of title track of the album because I was thinking of artwork. There was another song in there that I was like, oh, this could be cool for an album title. But Solar Water just sounded really strong, and yeah, it's like so. Solar Water comes from a guy called Gary McKinnon who hacked into the NSA and the CIA back, God, I think late 90s or
Mm.
something. And he found this thing about non-terrestrial officers, which, sounds like military guys who are in space.
Mm.
And so as he was downloading this stuff, um, someone took control of his computer, and then they stopped it. They tried to, they found out who was hacking the computers, and then they tried to extradite him. And then a few people uh, have come out and said, "Oh, I was in Solar Warden," and yeah, so I just made the song about that. And obviously, it's got to have sort of a sci-fi element, so that's where all the synths and stuff come from, and
Mm.
um, you know the progressive sort of style in that song. It's kind of got to be a bit space agey and things like that. And then yeah, it just finishes at the end with just yeah, a bit of chaos sort of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a cool story. People should look into that one. That's cool.
yeah. I like the vocals on this album too. How you got lots of like different kind of vocal styles and the kind of core response bits and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
thanks.
the horny as and the
Yeah,
solo,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool. All these
yeah.
stand out feel that's cool, man. Like,
Oh,
uh,
thanks, man.
yeah. So how did you kind of first decide to, I don't know, approach that? Like, could you straight away be like, okay, I'm gonna have like four different vocal parts or something, or like,
Vocals actually go last with me when I'm writing. Like it's got to start with the electric guitar, and you know, I'll come up with a riff, and I'm like, oh, great. And then, so when I'm writing this riff, then I think about the drums second. So I'll record a drum track with that, um, and then I'll put the bass down, and then the keys and stuff like that, and then maybe as I'm doing the drums, I can hear like a vocal rhythm,
Mm.
and then that's how the vocals kind of get started. Sometimes and then sorry, when I've done like the main vocal track, I'll listen for things where I'm like, oh, this would be cool if I had more voices here. So the vocal overdubs are like the last thing to kind of go on. But yeah, they just accentuate some things, and I'm still trying to figure out like what kind of voice I want, like do I want to go down this guttural vocal thing? Do I want to sound like more of a hardcore metalcore kind of voice, or stay in this black metal thing? And so, I just sort of experiment with the voices and stuff. But yeah, there's like when you hear the guide tracks of me just doing the rhythms, there's no words. It's just, me just going like blah blah blah, and then that gives you the word syllables, so you
Yeah, yeah.
write the lyrics around that. Well, that's what I do,
Cool.
so yeah, it's very like guitar and drums based, and that's where your rhythmic section is going to come. So you've got your rhythm and your harmony, I guess, and a bit of melody parts if I put some lead guitar parts in. um and then it's kind of like baking, no, making a cake. So it's just like going layer and layer,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's how I kind of come up with the vocal ideas for this song and the album, really.
That's cool, man. And the saying about leading the guide tracks. Um, I remember getting the Metallica single for like that fucking. I think it was the first one off Load or something, but
Yeah, yeah,
the B side was like him just going like da da da,
yeah,
like just
yeah,
doing the
yeah.
exact same thing, man. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, like
yeah,
the see, Metallica is even more different as well, because like he has to kind of come up with his rhythm and a melody. Like my stuff isn't, I'm not melodically singing much. except for one of the songs on the album. But like, I'm not melodically singing. It's a rhythmic element,
Mm.
and I kind of just scream in the key center. Like, really, that's it. And so all I have to really do is kind of just make those rhythms, whereas like someone like James Hetfield, he'll have to come up with those rhythms and then he's going to make a vocal melody that sounds good and catchy. So it's easier on my end, definitely compared to Hetfield. But yeah, the guard tracks are just, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll come up with a cool word and you're like, oh, I'll leave that in there. That could be sick.
Mm.
And then, yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So track two, Don't Go Into the Light. Yeah. All these low riffs and the synth and stuff. That's cool, man. So what's that one about?
That one's about like the reincarnation cycle of the human soul. So, the whole theory behind this song is like, when you die, and people say you go into the light. Well, this thing is to say not to go into the light, because what people have said and talked about over the years is if you go into the light, your soul gets transmitted into like almost like a soul cube, and the soul cube then will spit you back out into reincarnation, and you'll be stuck in this reincarnation cycle for millennia, eons, until the world ends, and that's kind of what these extraterrestrial entities want you to do. So, because they want to feed off the negative energy from your souls and stuff like that. So, what people have said over the years is to say, don't go into the light, and then you're joining like the soul force or the one source of the universe, which is like the God source, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much what that song's really about. It's not like not super complex or anything, but yeah, it's just a cool thing. And I thought, oh, I'd write a song about that. That'll be awesome. So yeah,
Cool. And then Possession of all those ringing out guitars and everything. That was really cool.
possession of for me is like there's not really a lot of this is me listening to a lot of like depressive style black metal.
Yeah, yeah.
I love and you can hear like some people are going to hear this and go, man, I cannot hear the vocals, like what is he saying, it's not as strong as his other ones, whatever. But that's me listening to some depressive black metal, and I was just like, man, I love it how it's got this vibe, it's got a feeling like the song, the way the songs are, it's got this feeling in it. Like it's not about the riffs. It's not about the drums. It's not about the cool vocal phrasing or whatever. It's like the atmosphere of that song. So that's my sort of take on this. And so yeah, the vocals are really pushed back, really reverby and just like
Mm,
in there. And it's to kind of it's my version or take on kind of trying to create this sort of like atmosphere with that song,
mm,
because I think there's not like a ton of riffs. It's not like an amazing musical performance or like really exciting composition, but it's to create an atmosphere with that song.
mm,
And it's a pretty dark song. Like it's about someone being possessed, but also being in a position of influence, and for them to um like appease the possessed portion of their soul or their body or their consciousness, whatever you want to call it. They've had to do all these evil sort of things, whether that was war or conquest or just being responsible for deaths of millions of people. So that's that song is really really dark. And when I was writing, I was like, look, this is the song. This has to kind of be that. If I had the vocals up front, um, and in more of a staccato or like thrashier style, that song would just be a complete mess. It wouldn't work. It
mm,
needed those long drawn out words. And so yeah, that was how I kind of put that song together. It was sort of like a depressive black metal style, but it's not about killing yourself or suicidal or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
about a story of someone who's in a big position of power, being possessed, and then having to like do all these evil acts to sort of yeah, just like please this possessed portion of their body. And then at the end, they're just, like everyone else, they're just thrown in the ground and left to die, like no one cares about them. So yeah, that's what that song was for me. And yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
cool.
pretty much
Yeah.
all of that song. But yeah, it's super different. Once again, that's super different to everything else that I've kind of written in the past as well.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, I like it. There's real mournful riffs, It's cool.
Thanks,
Like,
man.
yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Um, and Resurrection of the Templar.
Yeah.
Like fucking hell, man. That was great. That's
Oh, thanks,
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
don't have a sing song on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I was I always wanted to write about that stuff, the resurrection of the temple, which is actually like a ritual that has been going on for a long, long time. Just to give a backstory on that, I know you didn't ask,
No, no,
but
that's
I'll
good,
tell you
man.
about it anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so the thing in the Bible where Jesus was resurrected, that is kind of a distortion of what happened. So some people used to do resurrection ceremonies, which was like you would be placed in like a sarcophagus or in a super dark room. You would be given psychedelics. You would have a shaman or like a spiritual leader go in and talk to you through this 3 day full on trip thing. And it was to influence you almost going to the other side, right? Like, so, and some, psychedelics probably do put you into that thing like DMT, whatever. Whether back then they were using like ergot or mushrooms, whatever. So it was actually a ritual. It was like an initiation ritual for some of these people, and the Knights Templar actually used to do it. So um, that's where like, and with the Bible, they said, Jesus resurrected, blah blah blah. But people are like, no, that was actually a ritual that we used to do, or that this society used to do, or whatever. It was a 3 day journey that you went through, and when you were initiated, you came out. Um, and I was like, oh, dude, I've got to write a song about that. That's cool. I don't know what it's going to be like, resurrection. That's definitely not space agey or anything like that. So I don't know, man. I was just like mucking around on the guitar, and I came up with this like ballad, and I was like, okay, we're going with that. Um, and then I wrote the verse, and it was still clean guitar, and I'm like, okay, I'm not just going to scream over this. So I was like, got to sing it, man. Like, so that's kind of, it's become like a melodic death metal song, really. Like, really, it reminded me of like early In Flames kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I was just like, all right, that's where this is going, and don't think about what other people would think about this song, and don't think about, oh, that's not like true black metal or whatever. So uh that's kind of the process I had to go through with this album, and that song is just like a complete departure of like stuff I've done in the past. So but yeah, it's I'm pretty proud of that one. I'm pretty happy with the way that one turned out. It's really different from Brahmastra stuff in the past. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like too how it kind of cuts into that little thrashy-ish bit for a
Yeah,
minute there. It's
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
good.
There's
It's
some
really good,
thrash at
man.
the end. There's some thrash at the end, but
Yeah,
yeah, that's just the way that song kind of turned out. And I mean, I repeated the chorus.
yeah,
That's something I do a lot. I don't really do verse, chorus, whatever. Usually all my songs are different riffs. There's barely anything that repeats through the song. So, yeah, but that's just the way that one turned out, and hopefully people like that one. It's really, really different. So if you don't like Brahmastra now, you might like that song. So there you
yeah, yeah.
go.
Those chorus kind of vocal parts in there.
Yeah.
Is that your voice or is that just a
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
good synth? Like a new it's your voice. It
No,
sounds cool, man. Like, yeah.
that's me. I think
Yeah.
it's about so when I do like you mean the backing vocal stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Um oh the harmonies or the
Yeah, like yeah, kind of I don't know, the choral, I guess, where that
oh
kind of like
at the
like
very end. Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So in the end, yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And a synth, sorry. So it is both.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
But
that's cool. That sounds good.
I sang all the parts that I'm playing on the synth. So I kind of doubled it, you know. I
Mm.
can't sound like I'm in a cathedral, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
the synth can. And
Yeah.
then there's my voice there as well. So I think, I mean, even the death metal backing vocals, there's probably about nine, I think.
Right. Mm.
So each phrase has like nine different voices. And then that one was a synth with probably three or four voices, and then I sang what the synth was doing. So there's more. So there's like eight voices at least in that part as well. So yeah, it just kind of the synth kind of gives it that atmosphere, and then there's me kind of giving it more of a realistic sort of sense, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's cool, man. It's
yeah.
cool.
Thanks, man.
It's cool. Rakshasa.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Raksha.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So named after yourself, I
yeah,
guess, and the
yeah,
Hindu demons and stuff. Yeah,
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 yeah. You
that's
got it.
cool.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
that's
Yeah.
wicked, man. Yeah.
Well, I did my last album had the song Brahmastra on it, and I thought I'd do one for Rakshasa on this one. And um, ancient cultures, Indian Hindu culture, I it started out very thrashy, thrash and sort of like the harmonic minor scales or whatever that that they're using or Phrygian dominant scales in that type of music, and then thrash and those scales work really nicely together, and so it became that, and then the end is just yeah, full on um, percussion, Indian style percussion, off time grooves. It's a very like Indian. It's very Indian inspired that groove at the end,
Yeah.
and that kind of just came out of nowhere. And I was like, oh man, I hope please people listen to the end of this song because that to me was the best bit.
Yeah,
The
yeah, man,
ending's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Where all the instruments come in. I used a sitar on that one. I used acoustic guitars. I used uh like two different types of acoustic guitars. I did some synth stuff on that one. So there's tons of instruments at the end, and then all the percussion stuff. So I was using djembes at
Oh,
the end.
nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, and uh, Indian bells they're
Mm.
called, like these little Indian, they're tiny little like symbols and stuff. So that's what's going on in that at the end of that song. But yeah, you know, just the 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 concept drives the music for me, and it always has. So I'm gonna write something about Hindu culture. It's got to have Indian style music. It's got to have the scales and the instrumentation. So yeah, that was cool. I like doing that song a lot. Actually, that was fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, it's cool how it kind of builds and it's like, whoa, you're like swimming and all this stuff. That's
yeah, yeah,
cool, man.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Thanks,
like it.
man.
That's
But
good.
yeah, just yeah, I hope people really listen to that for the towards the last 75% because I think that's where the song kind of really gets into it.
Yeah,
So you got to listen to that one the whole way through for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
And Crimson Mist, that's another favorite of mine on there for sure, man.
Thanks.
Especially that yeah, that kind of chanty vocal sort of thing of that
Yeah.
operation,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the first one I wrote for this album. I started it in December last year. Where is it? Yeah, last year. So
Mm.
just before I left to go because I was lucky enough to go on a European holiday last year, end of
Nice.
last year. So I just started the album, and that was the first one that came out. Crimson Mist is about the genocide in Rwanda in the 90s. And it was between the Hutu and the Tutsi. And the conspiracy theory is that there was an operation called Operation Crimson Mist, and they used like almost like a mind control beam. I can't remember if it was on the Hutu or the Tutsi. And then they used it on one of the tribes, and they just became like berserkers, like crazy guys. And that genocide took over like 800,000 people or something. Like it was nuts. Um, and yeah, so that song, it's got some progressive riffs in there. It's got some like breakdown style stuff. It's got some avant-garde like synths and just a hodgepodge of everything. But and then the end is obviously just complete, thrashy, heavy metal
Yeah,
goodness, I guess,
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. It's
and
good.
but yeah, a lot of vocals, lots of synths, I mean, some of these songs on this album, there was like 70 tracks
Mm.
of stuff. I was like, oh, why did I do this? And now I've got to mix all this and kind of try and make everything fit in its little spot, And but yeah, that was a good song. But that was the first one I wrote, and that kind of set the scene for me. I was because it starts out with a very progressive style riff,
Mm.
and I'm like, this is where we're going, with this album. And so it did actually kind of set the tone for me for everything else. Um, the tuning, obviously I had to experiment with the tuning. That's where the C standard tuning came in. Um, and then the whole off time rhythms and use of synths and stuff like that. So yeah, that sets the tone kind of for the whole album. But I put it at, was it track 6, I think. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah, man.
That's
Thanks.
cool. Yeah.
I'm glad you
Um,
dug that one.
yeah, yeah, it's great. And the other bit I really dug was the very last riff, that fade out riff into the guitar. That's awesome, man. In
Yeah.
Avesa, that is Avesa, Avesa.
Vesa.
Yeah, like right
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end there. Yeah, that's
Oh,
killer.
thanks,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
That's cool.
Um, Avesa is I'm just so even the beginning for that's ripped right out of like the modern metal handbook,
Mm. Yeah,
like
man.
that effect that I've got at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but Avesa itself is actually about like immortality, or people trying to get into immortality. And some people say there's like circles of secret societies that practice like this immortality, and they do an Avesa ceremony. And I don't know if you've seen like X-Men
Yeah, yeah.
Apocalypse. You've seen X-Men Apocalypse?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's in the pyramid, and they kind of like get all the goo out of him into
Mm-hmm.
another body,
Yeah.
so that's how they kind of keep his immortality. That's sort of what they proclaim as the same sort of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, so Avesta is all about that. And the ending for that was like the clean guitar, sort of reverby guitar thing at the end. That's like, I guess, just to sort of put the whole album to bed as well, but also to like kind of you know show like it's, I guess, like the old soul is like moving away, and going into something else, whatever that would be, whatever my next album will be. So that's sort of where that jangly guitar thing at the end comes from. And yeah, that's really about it, I think.
Yeah, cool, man. Oh, that's awesome. It's how'd you go like mastering and stuff? Did you do anything different this time around? Because it sounds a lot bigger, you know?
Yeah, look, man, it's just me getting better. As look, I mean, if you listen to Alpha and Omega, it's set like that's raw as like I honestly, I hated recording and stuff when I was at university. We had to do recording, and I was like, man, I hate this thing. I hate this technology stuff, and rah, and then I bought a guitar, and then like after university, and then that's where I discovered the joys of like recording your own stuff. I kind of used it as a practice tool. I wanted to like make, I guess, like backing tracks for me to practice like solos, trying to be like Van Halen and stuff like that. That's where it all came from. And then I would record in a bedroom on this $20 interface, sort of thing. And and then that's where I kind of started to go, oh wow, this is actually pretty fun. Like maybe I could write a black metal album with this, you know.
Mm.
And then so you hear like Alpha and Omega, which is just raw. I knew nothing about mixing. I don't even think there's a plug-in on any of that stuff. It's just it was probably just me putting levels up. That would be about it, you know.
Mm.
Um, and then I slowly got a bit better with SS to bat, um, and then what was my third album? I can't even remember now. Was it 12th Planet? I think, and then as time went on, I'm just getting better,
Mm.
and like I run my studio now. I actually record for other bands and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool.
I've recorded some stuff for Leagues Electric. Check them out, and
Mhm.
Art of Dysfunction. And so, the more things I do, I'm just getting better at it. And this kind of was ready for me now to do this album and give it the treatment that I can give it at this time. Maybe next year it'll sound even bigger and better, but at this point in time, that's where I'm sort of at. So yeah, thanks for the kind words though. Like I
Oh, it's
appreciate
good.
that. Like
Yeah,
it's just someone getting better at the production side of making music.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Is there any chance that, like it's a digital thing, right? Are we going to get a physical one for this?
Yeah, so I'm under Winter Solace Productions.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, whether that's going to be CD first or vinyls first, I don't know. Like, it's really, really hard out there at the moment with these production plants just trying to get stuff out. They've got a huge list of bands on their roster, and my last album hasn't even come out on a physical release yet. So I'm just waiting. They're waiting for the materials, they're waiting for my time to come up, to like go, oh, okay, we'll give Brahmastra, a run now. We'll put his CDs on. So I'm sure it will happen. I just don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be this year. Hopefully it is. Sorry, not this year, next year,
Next year.
early next
Yeah.
year. But we'll see how we go. And yeah, I mean, all my faith's in Winter Solace Productions really at the moment. So
Yeah.
but so I can't answer definitively yet, but I'm sure it'll be definitely 2025.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
awesome. That's cool. What do you think? Like this time around, it's changed, and you said you sort of ended it in a way where you're like, what's going to come next, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Can you sort of picture anything at the moment, like early days, sort of what you can hear? Or?
To be honest, like I have no idea. It could be more similar sort of stuff or a progression. Because I mean, look, this album to me is also a progression of like Montauk Ultra because it has so many avant-garde heavy synth sci-fi kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and Montauk Ultra was all of that as well. um and I think that is kind of the style I like to do. That's my favorite kind of stuff, but I
Mm.
still like talking about ancient cultures and ancient astronaut theory as well. So I can't really do ancient stuff with sci-fi synths. It's just not going to work for me. I
Mm.
mean, I'm sure someone else could do it better, but I can't. And so, um, when I think Montauk Ultra was kind of like my first dip
Mm.
of my toe into that kind of style. And that's kind of where I do want to be, like this mix of like avant-garde, progressive, but mixed with some death and black metal and thrash. So I don't think I can see myself changing too far from that. But you never know. Who knows? I
Mm.
might do what Oliver did in the back there and
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
big dance album or something.
yeah, yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows? But I mean, like that's the cool thing about black metal or metal in general or whatever. Like you can release whatever you want, and
Mhm.
and that's um and you know I can only speak from my perspective, but I'm sure Oliver will like, look, we're going to do this complete raw black metal in the 90s, and then we're going to progress to, and now we're this, now we're this. Who knows, where my stuff could go. I don't really see myself doing this as like a synth pop project or whatever. But but that's, as I said, that's the cool thing with bands like mine or underground black metals. You can kind of go wherever you want, and but you just have to have that as an artist to go. uh, I don't really care what everyone else thinks of it. I don't care if people are going to go, oh, it's not their black metal stuff, or it's not raw, it's not cult, or whatever. It's not enough death metal stuff, or the thrashy bits, or he's tuned his guitar down too low, whatever. You know, like these are all things you can get. And I think as an artist, you just have to turn around and just go like, I don't care, man. Like this is the music that I wanted to write at this time. And if you like it, that's awesome. If you don't, that's totally cool. Like go and listen to something you like then,
Yeah, yeah,
it wasn't for you. And
yeah,
that's kind of the attitude I had for this one,
yeah,
because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of songs on here that people are going to go, man, what is he doing? Oh, that's different. Or the production's too good. That doesn't sound raw enough. Or, you know, um, he's got his death metal vocals here, or what's all this synth stuff? Who knows, what anyone says. But you as the artist, you have to go like, I don't care, and this is the song that I wanted to put out, and this is where the song went, and this is how I wanted it to be. So yeah.
yeah. No, it's cool. I like it. It's like you can hear it, and you got the tools that you've got, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. Like
Yeah,
that's what you
yeah,
can hear. So why not?
yeah.
Right?
Thanks,
That's
and
that's
yeah,
good. You know,
for sure.
that's
Thank you.
cool. Yeah.